Did you watch that? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Did you watch the Moxley Omega cage match, Joe?
Yep.
Joe, did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it, but I didn't watch it. Like, it was on in the background, basically.
What did you think about it? Conan? Did you think that was a good cage match?
Yeah, I thought it was.
I thought it was a good cage match, yeah, from what I watched.
4 3/4 stars by Meltzer. Like one of the greatest cage matches of all time.
Yeah, well, I don't agree with that, but it was good.
Right. I could argue with it.
Yeah.
Bro, guys, when guys in this day and age try to do brawls, it just doesn't look like the brawls like back in the day.
Well, I think my answer to that is we're not back in the day anymore. So that we liked back then doesn't really exist. Good, bro, there's a lot of things. Look, people don't sell well anymore. Right. Managers don't know how to work the people. They don't even know what they're out there for. They're just standing there. There's so many things that, to me, is you could say, old man screaming at the clouds all you want, but bro, there's a lot of things that they could take from before and institute them today, and the product would be way better.
100%. But because it's coming from the old talking heads, it's like politics. If a conservative says something, well, it must not be right to the liberals because the conservatives say it. They're fake news. It's like we're talking, and we've been labeled like these old heads, out of touch. So it's like,
bro, because that's a lazy excuse, because when you put them over, they never say thanks. But the millennials and the Gen Zs, they're very, 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 very sensitive, bro. Right. You can't say because they think you're the enemy or you're a hater or you're trying to be, but it's a lazy excuse on their part. Oh, you're not saying what I want to hear, so you're just a bitter boomer. You know? That's very easy to do.
And I've been very adamant about this for 20-something years, is that when I was in the booking meetings, okay, and like me and Vince and stuff, if somebody had a good idea, I don't care who came up with it. If it sounded like a good idea to me was a good idea. I wasn't one of those like arrogant creative guys that like, well, he's the mark. They don't know anything and stuff. If somebody comes up with a good booking idea, it's like, hey, that's a good idea. You immediately just accept it, sort of thing. It's fascinating. Like, here we are, like 25 years later, and it's like you have to have clout or you have to have a talking something like to have a good idea. And it's funny because everybody thinks that like I'm all the Mark podcasters and the dirt sheet guys. I'm always against them, right? But I'm against like a lot because they have a lot of bad ideas. Like they preach a lot of the stuff that we don't, the opposite stuff we don't. But I will put anybody over. I don't care who you are. If you say something I agree with. But it's fascinating in this climate of polarization, what social media has done is like, if somebody has a good idea that you generally disagree with, you kind of can't acknowledge the good idea. You have to kind of like just you won't give them a W on a good idea. And I think that's kind of like it really hurts us, especially this business. We're like guys like me and you. We're looked at as haters. It's like if we say something, the people will just discount everything we say because they don't like some of the things we say. And it's like you kind of like got to compartmentalize and look everything in context and like weed out good ideas and bad ideas and stuff. And like I just and bro, these are my ideas are my opinions. I never espouse my ideas as historical facts, but I will put my ideas up, and if we put them into practice, I would suggest that I would probably show decent results. Because like a lot of the stuff we talk about in this podcast, there's one thing people can't say. We do keep 100. You're still in the business. You're a booker for AAA, and you have no problem like putting over stuff you like and burying stuff that you do not like. And it's like because you bury stuff you don't like, people look at us as like, well, they're just like they've labeled us, and I think it's a false label.
Yeah, I've always said this before, that for you to insult me, I must respect your opinion. And I don't respect 90% of those people's opinion. I mean, the only guy's opinion that I kind of respect that aren't like wrestlers or we're in the business is like Dave. I like Jason a lot, with the guy that we have on our show. What's his last name?
Jason Powell.
Jason Powell. Mm-hmm. Jason Powell. I can't remember anybody else, but it's very few people, Right. So anybody else, I really don't give a But at the end of the day, these people that we talk about and usually don't hear the whole show or what the context is, they're hearing, what clickbait, right? So they're easily rattled that you would think, being in the business, knowing that clickbait is a thing, you wouldn't read the whole thing before you make a opinion, on social media. But my whole thing is, most of these people we've invited to the show and they won't even come on.
They won't even come on.
If you invited me to a show with somebody that said, I think K100 sucks or I think AAA sucks, I would go on their show and go, okay, why? Okay, this, and this. You might be right on this. You might be right on that, but you're definitely wrong on this,
Bro,
and just talk it out. And there's no, which I don't give a f, because at the end of the day, in this hypersensitive, hypercritical world that we live in, which are the wrestling fans, bro, in my DMs, I would say 95% positive on the show. Like we've got our own little niche audience. And I think when people hear us for the first time, it's refreshing to what they're hearing, because that's usually what they tell me.
Yeah, it's outside the echo chamber.
Right. You don't, exactly, So we just don't have the promotional machine to put it out there to the masses. That's why a lot of times I have to do guerrilla marketing. And even though they've made a joke of it about, oh, do you listen to the podcast? That's how I get people to listen. If you're following me, I'm going to send you that message.
Isn't that funny? People actually post that as kind of like
begging for listeners.
And it's like you're literally saying like how many podcasters are not at the level of arrogance that they won't even communicate with fans. Like you'll literally DM somebody and say, hey, do you listen to the podcast?
Right.
And they look at that as bro, like I said, a lot of the dirt sheet guys, it's fascinating how this has come to fruition because a lot of them share the same quality. They're all very narcissistic, and it's it's weird because I've got DMs of these guys in my, I've gotten DMs from all these guys, a lot of these guys, and their DMs are almost like you could read one of the DMs and just alternate. They sound exactly like the same guy, right? Because it's the same attitude. Bro, they think our show is some little show. Like we're not important. We're just, they're trying to get, they're trying to maximize their intellectual capabilities above ours.
How could you bro? How could you be more important than us if we were actually in the business?
They'll argue, but they won't argue publicly.
Can you imagine if we brought Josh? If we brought what was the guy Gibby on here, and we tried to make him look at John Gibbons.
All right, yeah. And we try to embarrass him, you don't know much about baseball.
You don't know what the right. Bro, all we did was show him respect. Right. Just like when Chris Irving's dad came in, Ted, is that his name?
Mm-hmm. Teddy.
What is
Ted Irving.
When Ted came on here, I'm all ears and I'm learning and I'm absorbing and I'm putting him over. He played, I didn't.
Right. Yeah, it's just funny because I listen every once a week I'll be at work and I'll just go on YouTube and I'll check out the Observer clips like Brian and Dave and stuff and just hear what they're saying. So, hey, bro, I'm not gonna say these guys are idiots. Bro, they say stuff. A lot of stuff I disagree with. They also make a lot of good points. Okay, but we can't even get Dave to come in this show and discuss some of this stuff because a lot of the stuff they say is open for debate. I'd like to debate it respectfully, but I agree with a lot of the stuff you guys say and stuff. So it's I don't know. It's just
So, and this is what's funny. So Dave called me a couple of days ago or sent me an email, and he wanted me to do this show with some guy, him and some guy who I've never met, but very cool guy called Garrett. Right? So
Garrett?
Yeah, Garrett. Yeah, Garrett.
Okay, yeah. I don't know who that is. Is that WWE Garrett? That guy? Joe, do you know what I'm talking about on Twitter?
No.
Okay, all right. I don't know who these guys are. There's a new guy.
I know you're talking
there'll be a
about
YouTube clip and some guy will be on there. I've never seen or heard of any 90% of these the Mark podcasters. And I use that term. People say, well, I don't know how else to describe it. They're fans of podcasts. So it's it's not like they're these are people that I worked with. And so they're people that showed up on the internet talking about wrestling, and their skill is, well, they were fans and they watched the shows. So it's okay, how else? Maybe that's derogatory, Mark podcaster, but I don't know what other word to use to describe these people because they didn't train. They didn't they didn't do what we did. So it's so go ahead.
they'd rather be called maybe fan podcasters.
I don't know what they want to be called.
Like,
wrestling
Mark's is
story,
calling girls rats nowadays. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the funniest thing, like Jared Aviat, friend of the show, like he puts on his Twitter bio, wrestling historian.
Right.
It's like, what is that? It's like, what's a wrestling historian? Somebody that anybody could be a wrestling historian by searching YouTube and watching a bunch of old wrestling clips. Right. So I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Maybe that's what these guys think they are. They're wrestling historians. Like they're kind of experts on wrestling because they've involved in it and they watch it a lot, and they could discuss it because they probably have more knowledge than the fan that just watched the live shows every week. They went above and beyond and watch a whole bunch of other stuff. But I don't know how to describe these people. So
that doesn't make you a historian. That just makes you a super fan.
Right.
But like I said before, I was on Dave's show. I think it was last night. I was on there last night, and I remember at the very end. You did Dave's show last night? Yeah, Dave and this guy called Garrett.
Garrett, okay.
They have some other show.
Okay.
I guess people send in questions and like that, and they talk about like what's happening now. And so the guy kind of got over with me because he was like, "I'm a huge fan from your MLW days," and I was like, "Yeah, no way I could say what I was saying now back then."
Right.
Garrett Gonzalez.
Yeah. And so at the end, he goes, "Yeah, plug your right." So I'm plugging the podcast, keeping it 100 with Disco and Conan. And I go, "By the way, Dave, I don't understand how you go ham on people." And I love Surly Dave, by the way, on Twitter, but you won't come on our show and confront Disco. And he wouldn't say nothing. And I go, "So am I to take it that even though I did your show, you're not coming on mine?" And he goes, "Yeah." That's it.
I mean,
bro, come on.
If anybody could show me any evidence where I have disrespected a guest on this show in the 6 to 7 year history that we've been doing this, show it to me and say to Dave. And bro, Dave's been on this show.
Yeah,
it's like I don't know. I just don't. Whatever. These guys are.
Changed. You haven't changed since he was on the show, and now the only thing is that you have heat for whatever reason, and you're considered like toxic. You can't go on.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I'm a toxic personality. So
right.
Whatever. I think who cares. All right.